All right, let's go ahead and call the Senate to order. Sergeant Arms has secured the chamber. Members have taken their seats. Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Mr. President,
Clerk will take the call. With 3 members in the chamber for this pro forma session, the Senate of Maryland is again back in session. Of course, we will substitute yesterday's invocation for today's. Any introductions or announcements from our esteemed representative members? Recognizing the Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would just like to thank you for, at your presser this morning, you mentioned the HPAI, or better known as the avian flu outbreak that we've had over on the Eastern Shore with respect to birds in the poultry industry. And obviously, we're keeping aware of that here in Annapolis. I want people to recognize that. We're getting an update from the Department of Agriculture today. But for you mentioning it today, recognizing that this is not just an Eastern Shore issue, but a Maryland issue, and that we are going to do the best that we can to make sure that we can contain that. At the same time, make sure we look at any type of economic downfall as a result of that and what needs to be done to make sure the poultry and ag industry in Maryland are held harmless from this, and wish for the best of everything that happens with respect to that. So thank you for keeping that as one of your priorities.
Most certainly, and appreciate the Minority Leader and the Minority Caucus for flagging yesterday the importance of making sure that it's known how critical this is. And hopefully everything's fine, but better to be prepared in times of crisis. So thank you. We felt the support with the Key Bridge. It's important to make sure that we have it for all of the industries across the state. So thank you. All right, any further announcements before we jump in? If not, so be considered the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. We've got introduction, calendar number 12. Clerk will read the bills.
Senate Bill 360, Senator Hester, Revenge Porn, Civil Action and Criminal Offense, Judicial Proceedings. Senate Bill 361, Senator Hester, Election Law, Influence on a Voter's Voting Decision by Use of Fraud, Prohibition, Education, Energy, and the Environment.
Majority Leader moves, so we consider the reading of the bills. We're at about 400, just about at 400, so we're in a decent spot. Last day to request the bills today, so we'll see what the pipeline looks like. Hopefully not too much of a rush. We still have some bond initiatives. This is calendar number 6. Clerk will read the bond initiatives.
Number 1, Senator Rosa Pep, Laurel Boys and Girls Club, Budget and Taxation. Number 2, Senator Rosa Pep, St. Vincent Pallotti High School, Budget and Taxation. Number 3, Senator Rosa Pep, MEOR Cultural Center, Budget and Taxation. And number 4, Senator Hedelman, Jewish Community Services Alternative Living Unit Program, ALUs, Budget and Taxation.
All right, the legislative bond initiatives will be referred to the Capital Budget Subcommittee. That does it. The desk is officially clear. Let me take a second to say thank you to our wonderful Senate pages. You had a wonderful week. Thank you for being here with us. We are also joined with some of our House pages across the way. So thank you all for being with us as well. It's great to see you. So thank you, and we'll see you on week 8. It's 8. Did I say 9 last time? Oh, it's my fault though. I should have run 8. 8 it is. 8. Week 8. So it'll be a lot busier then. Things are gonna be a little bit chaotic when you all are back. So. Well, not chaotic, that's the wrong word. They'll be more interesting, excellent. All right, let's see. Does the Minority Leader have a request?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd like to request that we adjourn today in honor of Joan McLean. And if I could just say a few words, if you don't mind, please. We've all been here for just over a week and a half now, and it's very important that each of us are doing the important work on behalf of the citizens of Maryland. But it's just as important that we maintain that balance between our personal lives, our friends, and our family. And just today, after being at the Pace Breakfast and listening to the governor's speech, I went to a funeral service for one of my very best friends' mom, who just passed away. And her name was Joan McLean, and I would always call her Mrs. McLean. And she would always say, "Senator, please call me Joan." And I would say, "Mrs. McLean, please call me Stevie." So we had a very great relationship. Mrs. McLean grew up in New York, came to Annapolis and met her husband of 66 years, retired Lieutenant Commander Rupert McLean, while he was a midshipman at the Naval Academy. They moved to Bowie and they raised a family of 5 children and numerous grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Mrs. McLean was what we called a Bowie mom. And like many Bowie moms, she was someone who cared not only for her children, but her friends, and their friends as well too. So it was someone that she was always there for all of us, and she instilled values, morals, discipline, but again, most important, she cared for all of us like we were her own children. And all the way down to even in her last call with her son, my friend Duncan, she went right down the list. You know, how's Stevie? How's Bridgham? How are the Terrells? How's Mog? Just wanting to make sure that we were all okay. And that's what it really was like when we grew up in Bowie and we had that support of so many different families. Also, interestingly enough, Mrs. McLean was also part of the Senate of Maryland family. She had worked for former senator who represented Bowie, Ed Conroy, for several years while he was the chairman of what I learned was called the Constitution and Public Law Committee back then. So again, very important to this family as well. So Mr. President, while we've all had so many people that have touched our lives and influenced who we are and who we are going to be, I personally, and I know I speak for many of my friends, that we're very fortunate and thankful that we had Mrs. McLean in our life. And today's a tough day for the McLean family, and I ask that all of us that are hearing what I'm saying keep their family in their thoughts and prayers. And I respectfully ask that the Senate of Maryland adjourn today in honor of Mrs. Joe McLean.
Without objection, most certainly we will do so, and she sounds like truly a wonderful woman. Special type that have that type of impact. Thank you, most certainly. I would be remiss if I did not say to my wife, who I am 100% sure is not watching, that it is her very happy anniversary of her 29th birthday today. So happy birthday to Leah, and hopefully she's doing something fun. You know, obviously not watching this. So, all right. With that, anything else for the good of the order? All right. Let's go ahead and let's do a quorum call.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their votes or their presence? Appears so. Clerk will take the call. With 3 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session, recognizing the caucus chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until January 20th, Monday, January 20th, 8 p.m., in memory of Joan McLean.
Without objection, so ordered. Have a wonderful and safe weekend, everyone.